Please do not adjust your sets. We're coming to you live from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Library. This is June 13th. It's 2 p.m. Do not adjust your sets. There's nothing wrong with them. Isn't that right, Fred?
Absolutely.
And of course, as always with me is my trusty, rusty sidekick, Fred, Mr. Truth Stafford.
Hello there, Chuck, and hello, viewers.
Now, is it true that you were a boxer back in the 30s?
No.
On one of them ships out of
No.
the boxing teams from
Nope.
the Navy?
Nope.
Okay, well, I heard that rumor and I just wanted to check. Well, once again, we are alive, Fred, and it's good to be alive, isn't it? It's a great country.
Yes.
Isn't it wonderful, Fred? You can get a six-pack of beer and a pound of cheese and go over to your friend's house. And where else in the United States can you do that but right here in Wisconsin?
Yes.
It's wonderful to be from Wisconsin. I just borrowed that from Governor Thompson. That's the speech he gives all the time.
You did.
Beer and cheese.
Beer and cheese.
Made this country great, and it made Wisconsin even greater.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Fred, there's some big problems out there.
I think our country needs to be prayed for, and we have to pray for the people that we elect to office who are failing to do the job that we elect them to do.
Well, Fred, I know you wanted to start the show off with a little prayer, so go ahead.
I would like to have you do it because I like the way that you pray.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Please bow your heads. All right, well, thank you for the show today, and we ask your blessings on the program, and we ask that you will protect and watch over us because we do have enemies out there in TV land, and we get lousy phone calls at home late at night, and so we just ask that you protect us physically, mentally, morally, and spiritually. In your name we pray, amen, and thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Fred, today is June 13th, and on the program we like to tell what happened on that date
Yes.
many years ago. So on this date in 1966, Fred, there was an important case in the Supreme Court, and it was the case of Miranda versus Arizona. And it rules that a suspect must be read his rights before police can begin interrogation. The Miranda ruling.
Yes.
You see it on every cop show on TV, Fred. You
Yes.
have for almost 30 years now. Every kid in the country knows about his rights because of TV.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Fred. Well, we were talking about the problems we're having in the country. You know, a lot of these congressmen are kicking themselves in the rear end now because they signed on to this NAFTA deal, Fred. And now the facts are starting to flow in that the price of milk is falling through the floor, the price of cheese is going down, the Mexicans are dumping cheap dairy products across the border. Canada's bringing in cheap wheat. And our Congressman Steve Gunderson was all for that. As a matter of fact, he was so much for it, the President of the United States said, if you take any heat over voting for it, we'll even send in people to help you campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how far they went to push this thing, Fred. Democrats coming in and campaigning for Republicans.
All right.
So now they're in trouble with it. Now the farmers are stuck with such cheap milk that they might as well pour the stuff on their fields as fertilizer, Fred, because it's almost
Well, it's
too
too
cheap
bad.
to sell.
That's too bad. I remember hearing that fellow that I went to listen to, who was the treasurer, I think, of the AFL-CIO, who spoke here in Eau Claire against it. And he told where the Ford Motor Company had a plant down there, they're going to make 74,000 cars. 24,000 were going to stay in Mexico, and 50,000 were coming up here, made with that cheap labor. That's cars that could have been, or would have been before this, made here.
Not only are we getting cheap imports from down south, Fred, we're getting cheap drugs and all kinds of illegal aliens.
Right.
More than we can handle, Fred. So we're getting all kinds of imports from Mexico.
Yes.
Now, on a recent article I read about the milk prices, it was blamed on two things. The reason milk prices are going through the floor and the family farm is up against the ropes, almost ready to throw in the towel.
Yes.
Two things, Fred. Number one was NAFTA, the sellout by our government of NAFTA. Number two was BGH, these big agricultural conglomerates that have moved into the countryside and taken over the family farms. They're pumping that BGH chemicals into the cows to make them produce more. So those two things But there's even one that's worse that's looming over our country right now, Fred, and it's called the GATT agreement.
Yes.
And that's a foreign trade agreement where it's going to even lower our barriers more to even let more foreign goods and milk and cheese and stuff flood into the country. So the family farm is in trouble, Fred.
Yes.
Big trouble. Now, since I brought up BGH, and it costs more to buy BGH-free products in the store, which is ridiculous,
Yeah.
because it costs money to buy the BGH to inject into the cows to begin
Right.
with. So you'd think it would cost more for the BGH products. But since it's so hard to get rid of that BGH stuff, they're doing a reversal on us, Fred, and they're charging more for the BGH-free products. That way
Huh?
people will try and save a penny and maybe buy the poison.
That's why I don't buy milk.
Incidentally, Fred, this program is brought to you by the Flavin Company, and all of our products are BGH-free.
I thought that was BGH in the bottom there. What the hell is? What's that?
Fred, you gotta watch your language. We're on live
Yeah.
TV here.
Got a
What is
worm
it?
or something in there?
I don't know what got in
Well,
there.
I don't know. There, that's whatever it is. It's
We have
it's
strict.
got something like that in there. I don't know. Your quality control is
We
going
have,
down.
we have strict quality control, Fred. We
Yeah,
have
that-
the finest, the best that money can buy.
Right. Well, what? You tell me what's in there then.
Well, I don't know, but there's something in there.
You
floating
bet.
around.
Looks like a worm to me.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's something new that they sprung on me. Maybe it's tequila flavored Flavin Pop. That's what it is, Fred. And you have to have a worm. There. Maybe they can see something.
Did it kill it?
See, there's a worm floating around there, Fred. This is tequila flavored Flavin Pop. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
It killed the worm.
Oh, by the way, Fred,
Yes,
this checkbook comes from the Flavin Company,
it does.
right out of the Chippewa Valley, and
That looked like somewhat like the one
I
I
have been
have.
authorized, Fred,
Yes.
in the name of the company, to write you a check right now for $49.95 for the rights to the Fred's pop over there.
I'm sorry there.
It's a one-time offer
If
today
you
only.
want to make it 49 million or something like that, I might consider it.
I've been authorized to go up to $49.95, and that's it.
That's it then.
All right. You're going to be sorry later on, because we're going to get out there and push this stuff and wipe you right off the market.
I got 2 orders more there. I just going to have to get a bigger bathtub to make it in.
Okay, I thought you and Betty were up to something over there late at night. The lights burning until 3 in the morning. Okay, Fred, on this date, then we'll get into something you've got there.
Yes.
On this date in June 12th, which was yesterday, Fred, as part of the civil rights movement back in the 60s, Fred, there was a lot of trouble. The FBI had to move into the South. They had the Freedom Riders. People were murdered. People from the North came up and harassed people from the South. States' rights, George Wallace, the whole business. Well, on this date, 1963, not only did President Kennedy lose his life, but also another man. His name was Medgar Evers, Fred, from Jackson,
Yes.
Mississippi, and he was murdered yesterday.
Hmm.
I think he was coming out of church or something when he was murdered, wasn't he?
I don't recall, but I know he. No, I know he was murdered.
I think that case was just finally settled a few months ago. They tried the guy for the 3rd or 4th time, and finally he was found guilty.
Yes.
It's amazing. I thought in this country it was one trial and you're done, but this guy was tried at least 3 times.
Well, it's just like what they did with those policemen out in California who were involved in the beating of Rodney King.
Yeah.
They were tried twice.
Well, Rodney's a millionaire now, Fred.
Hmm.
Okay. What do you got there, Fred?
All right, something I've been reading in the Bible and I thought was interesting. And to the church in Laodicea, and this is from Revelations, and was it chapter 3, 14. To the angel of the church in Laodicea, write, these are the words of the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot or cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. You know, back some 10 years ago, I read that, and that spoke to me. It helped to change my sitting by and being tolerant of things which were evil all around me.
What's even more amazing, Fred, you think about that. You can be over here cold as an ice cube, or you can be boiling hot. But if you're in the middle, he's going to spit you out of his mouth.
Right.
In other words, he doesn't want nothing to do with you if you're lukewarm and in the middle. That's kind of amazing that he would think more of somebody that's just totally cold as compared to somebody that's lukewarm.
There's another, and I'm reading from the New Standard Bible. In Corinthians 1:6-9, or do you know that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither fornicators, adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers shall inherit the kingdom of God.
Isn't that amazing, Fred? Everyone says that the Christians are always just pointing the finger at the homosexual. Good thing they got 5 fingers, because 4 of them are pointing right back. Because it says more than just homosexuality, right? It says all kinds of things in there.
Right.
Amazing.
Right.
That we shouldn't be singling out one thing that we call sin and whitewashing the rest of them.
True. Well, what it seems to me today, and we can go to the Eau Claire Leader Telegram in particular, they're more tolerant of the homosexuals and the lesbians than they are of the Christians. They're intolerant of them.
But you just read a verse, Fred, so don't just zero in on them. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff out there that people are sinning over besides that.
I know, but I'm just saying the Eau Claire Leader Telegram did give us 9 days of positive articles without telling of the things that they've done, such as invading churches and insulting the people there, throwing condoms there, shouting, cussing. That was not in those articles.
Mm-hmm.
Nor did it tell how many the Boy Scouts had to dismiss, over 1,400 of them in a 20-year period, because they molested the children at 9 to 11 that were in their care.
You mean Boy Scout leaders, not
Yes,
the Boy
the
Scouts?
leaders, right.
Okay. All right, Fred. Well, if you got your community news from the leader from the city of Eau Claire, probably got a map telling them about the bypass.
Yes.
And we got this big $18,000 propaganda push going on by the city of Eau Claire right
Yeah.
now. They've taken your taxpayers' money, your dollars, and city of Eau Claire's tax dollars, and they've put it into a one-sided propaganda blitz. And it's one-sided. Billboards, radio, TV, big displays out at the malls, and now they've sent out thousands of these community newses out to everybody, and with an insert that says the 53 Eau Claire bike pass. We've dealt with that on the program, Fred, trying to offset some of the propaganda that's coming out from the inner bypass people. And I would say some of these figures in here are misleading, but people will just have to read that, because I'm sure every household has got one. And in the map that they show, Fred, there's only, I don't know if we can see that there, but there's only one bypass shown, Fred, and that's the inner bypass. It doesn't show.
And that's the one that most of us don't want.
Well, if you got land in Altoona and you don't want a 4-lane plus all kinds of other stuff, fences and walls and everything else put up in your backyard, there's
Yeah.
anyway, you got one in your mailbox, and it shows that the dotted line there is the inner bypass route, which is to the west of Lake Altoona, but they don't
Yes.
show the other route, which is just to the east of Lake Altoona, which makes more sense in the long run, Fred, because the city's just going to grow around this inner bypass and make it obsolete.
Well,
Not
that's
obsolete, but
quite true. And we're going to have to build the outer bypass, in my humble opinion, sooner or later, and why not do it now?
But anyway, that's the
What
city.
we need to do is upgrade Highway 53.
Yeah, well, that's in both proposals for the inner and the outer, Fred, upgrading of existing Highway 53. Everybody agrees on that, but some people are trying to sneak the inner bypass underneath the door with that upgrading of 53 and saying that this is the only way to go, and it's not. 53 upgrading is a separate issue altogether, Fred. It needs to be done. Whether and if or but the inner or outer bypass is built. 53 needs intersections, it needs more lanes, it needs work. Any way you go. Well, that's enough of the inner bypass, Fred. We've dealt with that for, what, 20, 25 years now? We still haven't settled it? All right, Fred, there was some exciting news over the weekend. Exciting if you're involved in politics. Down in La Crosse, the Democrats had their state convention, and
Yes.
in Eau Claire, there was another meeting of the Eau Claire County Republican Party, and they had a little excitement at their meeting, which you missed, Fred, because you and I were down in Fond du Lac. So before we get into that, Fred, we might as well take a call here and see the flavor of the college today. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hello.
I think you don't know what you're talking about, and I think you're real...
Well, thank you very much. It's another fine example, Fred, of
Yes.
$6,100 per student per year of the Eau Claire educational system. A fine, upstanding example of education here in the Chippewa Valley. Okay, Fred. We'll try and take a call on line 2. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I think that the school, that its budget is pretty crappy because they don't have clinics anymore, and I always get the runniest nose, and they gotta wipe it on my fucking
Another fine example, Fred. I guess there's not many
Almost
jobs
like the
available
same
for
one.
kids this summer as there used to be. You notice that?
Well, I've noticed there's been signs in the hamburger places, the fast food restaurants, looking for help.
Well, the children out there, Fred, they used to be able to, I mean, if nothing else, you could always, but when I was a kid, you could always go out and detassel corn for the big corn companies and make pretty good money. It was hot work, but you had some money in your pocket at the end of the day. You stayed out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Detasseling corn, Fred, you'd walk along and you'd pull out the tassel. You ever done that?
No.
That's how they make hybrid corn seed. You have to detassel the corn so it doesn't pollinate the other plants. And it makes a very hybrid corn seed. You see the results in your supermarkets and in your feedlots. Okay, I think we got a call on line 1. So we'll go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, you were saying that you questioned the numbers for the inner bypass. Do you have any alternative numbers to refute theirs?
Well, what I got was in what I got in the mail, and the outer bypass folks, I don't think they've got $18,000 to spend to push their numbers out there, so I don't have both sets of numbers in front of me, but some of these figures were just basically like they're projecting that with an outer bypass, total annual accidents would be 560, whereas the inner bypass only 320. I don't know where they can figure that. That kind of caught me. If you do nothing, it says there's going to be 610 accidents projected to the year 2010. If you do the outer option, there's going to be 560 accidents. So that kind of tends to make me believe that they're trying to tell you, well, the inner bypass is the safest way to go. I don't know how they can project out, 16 years ahead and decide that there's going to be twice as many accidents on the outer bypass as on the inner bypass, almost twice as many.
Probably just figuring through statistical figuring, maybe.
Well, neither one's built, so how do they really know?
Yeah, on average, it kind of leaves you wondering. But no, I was just wondering if there was any sources for the opposing view. I see you guys have taken a stance.
Well, we had an inner bypass gentleman that's involved for several years on the outer bypass, I mean, and his statistics were right out of books that came right from the Department of Transportation and other reports that were official reports. So we did a whole program on that a few weeks ago, and it refuted some of the propaganda coming out from the inner bypass. So the inner bypass folks were calling into that program saying that the outer bypass people didn't have their facts right.
Yeah, okay. All right, I was just curious. Thanks a lot.
All right. All right. Okay, Fred. So other than the Democrats having their big shindig down in La Crosse. Republicans had theirs, what, 2 weeks ago down in
Yes.
Milwaukee.
Yes.
Were you going to say something about that?
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
And also, we've got another call, but also, before we get into that, Fred, there's another person in the race for the 3rd Congressional District. Now, this is old news to some people. It's dated June 1st. I guess it's almost 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the parole people, United We Stand people, they don't have a political party as per se, but they did support Perot and his vice presidential candidate for president, and got about close to 20%. I think in the 3rd district they even got more than 20% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
So a former official with the United We Stand group has decided to run. His name is Mark Weinhold, and he's from Colfax. So the field's getting crowded, Fred. There's going to be an independent. It's going to be a 3-way race now. No matter what happens in the primaries, there's 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and at least 1 independent so far in the race. So no matter what happens,
Yes.
it's going to be a 3-way race, which is even going to make it more interesting, Fred. It's getting to be a crowded and exciting field out there. Okay, we better take a call, Fred. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. What's up with your fucking gun?
All right, Fred. We had a wrong number there. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Why are you wearing rubber gloves?
Pardon?
Why are you wearing rubber gloves?
Rubber gloves. These are the Michael Jackson Memorial gloves. Only $19.95.
Well, I think you're old.
Well, thank you. Thank you very little, Fred. There's another fine example of the educational prowess that we have in the Chippewa Valley.
You can't blame everything on the educational system.
You can't. What do you want to blame it on?
Well, I guess that those kids have no respect for others and are just being a general nuisance. They think that's funny.
$49.95 today, Fred.
Good.
Okay. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello. I got a couple things here. You mentioned Medgar Evers getting killed in '63. At the time, I lived in Mississippi, and it was about the biggest thing going on in those days, naturally. You mentioned that he was killed coming out of church. Actually, he was killed at his home on his front porch at night. He was watching television with his wife and children. Someone outside made a noise in his yard. He told his wife and children to lay down on the living room floor since there'd been many attempts on his life. He went out on the porch to see what had happened, and he was gunned down. And the man that was finally convicted of it, he was tried several times throughout the years. His name was Byron Della Beckwith, who was a high official in the Mississippi Klan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, were you in that?
I just thought I'd enlighten you on that a little bit. It was where I was when it was happening. It was the biggest thing happening. So even if I was only 14, you didn't help but know about. I believe it was in Greenville, Mississippi, where it happened.
Well, there was plenty of activity down there by...
every time you turned around, someone was getting killed or hung, or pretty bloody days.
Wrong.
It's amazing that in the 60s there were still people getting hung down there.
Yep.
Well,
And-
thank you very much for that information.
You're very welcome. Enjoy your show.
All right.
Bye now.
All right. Well, see, Fred, there's some people that are actually down there when that happened, and Medgar Evers is just one of the more famous cases. A lot of people were beat, lost their lives,
True.
run out of town.
Which was wrong.
Yeah, it was an amazing time there, Fred. Of course, there was some evidence of some communist agitation. Of course, they always move into a troubled situation like that, try and make
Take
points,
advantage of it.
take advantage of it too. But I'm not saying that Medgar Evers or anyone was a communist on it, but there was some influence back in those days of that too, and that riled up some of the Southerners.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
You're so fucking...
Okay, well, thank you. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Did you finish high school?
Who, Fred?
No, either of you.
Yes.
You bet.
Did ya?
Uh-huh.
You
Sure.
bet.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I learned more watching Beavis and Butthead than watching you.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
maybe
Thank
you
you very
ought to
much.
continue to watch it there and stop calling us.
Now, easy, Fred, easy. This is my program, and we don't want to tell people not to call.
Well, those
We have
kind
to
of
weed-
calls we don't need.
We have to weed out the good with the bad there, Fred.
Mhm.
It's just like weeding the garden. Once in a while you'll come to a nice big ripe tomato, Fred, and hopefully this is the one. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
What's that stupid thing you're wearing around your neck?
Well, another fine example, Fred, of somebody
Yeah.
inquisitive, Fred.
Right.
Inquisitiveness out there. It's overwhelming. That's called a necktie. Okay, Fred. Now, we were talking about some things that happened over the weekend in Eau Claire. Well, in Saturday morning's paper, there was a, it seems to me, article in the Leader Telegram by Doug Knight, the 3rd District Chairman
Yes.
of the Republican Party in Wisconsin. And he was pretty much, once again, tearing into the conservative elements within the party.
Right.
And
He doesn't want the Republican Party to be a party of principle?
and he was, in particular, attacking the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which I'm affiliated with now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their attempt to try and get the Christians and the liberals together and point the finger at the Taxpayers Party and blame everything on us so that they could have a big love fest, Fred.
Mm.
Well, the whole thing blew up in their face at their executive meeting Saturday. And we'll talk about that as soon as we take a call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I have a question. How come when somebody disagrees with you or something like that, you never let them finish what they're saying, you always hang up on them?
Well, because we have certain rules and regulations about behavior on the air, and one of them is that we're not going to tolerate people that can't speak English properly without cussing to be on the air.
Well,
So if you've got a question that you want to ask without swearing or acting like a 2-year-old, go ahead.
2-year-old from
Yeah.
you.
Well, evidently you don't have anything of educational value to add to the program today, Fred.
Right.
Amazing. Okay. I don't know if we had a call on 2 or not. Very hectic show today, Fred. We haven't
Right.
even got to our main subject.
Well, let's talk about it. And
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Well, I think that everyone's calling in and they're cutting on your show, but I think it's a fine program you have here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think you do a really good job.
Thank you.
I don't think they should cuss and swear like all the other people that are calling.
I know, and if it wasn't for the Flavin Company, who underwrites each and every program, we wouldn't be able to bring this fine production to you.
Well, it's very fine.
Well, thank you very much for your call.
Yep.
We appreciate those. Did you have a question today?
No, but you're a jerk.
Well, thank you. Isn't that amazing, Fred, how they think they
Yeah.
can sneak them in there? This
All right.
kid was talking into a can, so he thought
Yeah.
that he was changing his voice.
Yeah.
Okay, Fred. We're going to take a call in a minute, but first we got both lines tied up, so please be patient. But we wanted to deal with what happened on Saturday at the big shindig there. Big shindig they call the there it is.
the executive committee?
The executive committee of which you are a member, Fred.
Yes.
Where were you?
I was in Fond du Lac at another meeting
See, there you have it.
where the people who were at that meeting, which happened to be the State Board of Morality and Media of Wisconsin, we don't fight one another. We're united on principle and support the issues that come before us for discussion.
Yes. Good speech, Fred. Well, okay, I'm going to read this quick, and then we're going to take a call, Fred.
Yes.
Okay, this is from the Leader Telegram, and the head of the article is called Invited Out. GOP committee asks Reinders to resign as county vice chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it appears that the vote on this matter was 20 to 12 in favor of seeking Reinders' resignation, with 2 members abstaining and Fred Stafford out of town. What they're wanting him to step down for is because he's involved in the Don Brill campaign for 3rd District congressman on the Republican side, and he's agreed to be the campaign manager for that campaign.
Apparently, they'd rather support someone who supports homosexuality, acts as a spokesman for that in Congress,
Well,
instead of getting on board themselves.
what they call the CPR forces, led by Don Ellickson, pushed this through.
Yeah.
And one of the speakers there, ironically, was from another county, but she was there throwing her 2 cents worth in and made a statement that she is going to be the campaign manager for a Republican candidate for the state Senate seat against Rod Moen. Now, she's an official in the Chippewa County Party.
Uh-huh.
Well, she's aligned herself with these forces that are attacking Reiners for being a campaign manager in the Brill campaign. So it's, on one hand, if you're a liberal in the Republican Party, it's okay for you to be in a position of authority and also to be a campaign manager, run secret campaigns and undermine other candidates. But if you're a conservative, it's not okay. So there's a double standard that's developed in the Republican Party, and it's very blatant. So we'll take this call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to address this to Fred.
Yes?
How come your glasses are so thick?
Well, I need thick glasses there in order to see what I have before me sometimes.
Are you blind?
Am I what?
Are you blind?
No, actually, these aren't very, very thick. They aren't.
Well, you know, the word's out. Fred rules. Okay, Fred.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. You can see, Fred.
Yeah.
All right, well, anyway, Fred, so that's the way I see it. That it's okay on one hand, certain officials and staff workers for other Republicans are secretly running liberal Republicans around this area and using staff phones and copy machines and fax machines, secretly doing it. And then on the other hand, they point their finger at Reiners because he wants to be involved with the Brill campaign. I mean, in politics, that's what you're either involved or you're not. You're either an activist or you're on the wayside.
True.
Okay, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was wondering if Fred had any more of that Fred's Best Pop crammed up his...
Okay. Do we have a call on line one? All right. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I got a good program today. It's too bad all those kids are calling in, but
Well, that's America for you. We can't, we're not going to shut down the program because of a few children.
yeah, but why don't you get a computer printout from the phone company and stop that and prosecute that, because it's against the law to
Well,
use those languages over the phone.
That's right, and there, when we institute caller ID here, we'll know exactly where the phone calls are coming from.
Yes, the
And
phone-
then we will be filing complaints with the local police, and we will prosecute.
Yeah, and even the people who might take the phone calls, it'd be nice if they wouldn't take children on the air like that.
Well, we have to take them as they come. We can't
But
just...
getting back to your thing on the Republican Party, I think you're right on the head there. If you're liberal, it's fine. They'll stand behind it, like you said, the person from Altoona running a campaign, and then that's all right for her to do that and be vice chair. But if our vice chair of Eau Claire County wants to be involved in a campaign, then they say can't do it, and there's nothing in the bylaws that says he can't. Just a bunch of hot air to get free press, it looks like, again. That's all that...
That person is from, not from Altoona, but from Chippewa Falls, isn't she?
Oh, that's right, Chippewa Falls.
Something happened to our sound there. Did you turn your
All they're trying to do...
Did you turn your phone down or what? Still there, caller?
Set up, they were all planned when they came into the meeting. I was there. And,
Well, we got some sound problems here all of a sudden.
probably cut you off.
Well, I can hear you, but it's not very good. I don't know if the audience can hear it, because we can barely hear it in here.
That better?
No. No, you'll have to... There.
How's that?
Okay, now we're back here.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, what they were doing or something.
Well, something we just had a... Anyway, now, you say you were at this meeting Saturday morning.
You bet I was, and I'm glad I was, because it's politics as usual. When the chair of the Eau Claire County stepped down to defend the vice chair, and they put one of their cronies in, it was very obvious how they like to stamp out and control. We seen it. There was an amendment added to table this, and they wouldn't even recognize it. So the rest, I think, just kept quiet and let them do their thing because they just wanted free press.
So you, the Robert's Rules of Order were stomped on besides, huh?
Oh, yeah. Robert's Rules of Order didn't even count there.
Now you say this person that has aligned herself with the liberal CPR leftists in the party, she is the vice chairman of the Chippewa County Party, and she has agreed to be the campaign manager for another Republican?
Hey, that's the ironic part of it. They made an announcement that she was in charge of that campaign,
and she's vice chair of Chippewa County, and she sat at the table that helped lead the charge against the vice chair of Eau Claire County. I tell you, it's nothing but to get free press. And as soon as they were done, one of them went right to the telephone, and then it was on the news. They must be right in bed with the press here, that liberal bunch.
Well, what I've noticed about that party from top to bottom is there's two classes of people. There's country club and the wannabe country club type Republicans, and then there's the worker bees down at the bottom that do most of the work. And I guess over the years it's been fine for the Christians and conservatives to labor in the fields, while the plantation masters sit on the porch and watch and take all the credit. Well, now that the conservatives and Christians are moving into roles of authority, they just don't like it, because it's almost like they're riding on the plantation, Fred, and they want a bigger say on what's happening. So you got people like Doug Knight, who was 3rd District Chairman, siding with the liberals and the leftists in the party, when he should, of all people, to keep the party together, he should be neutral.
I think he should resign as 3rd District Chair, because I think if he's attending the CPR meetings, which we know he is, he was at the last one we hear, I think that's a conflict of interest. I think he should be removed as 3rd District Chair, and that's terrible.
That tells you that when you move up from one level from local politics, you see how rough it is here. Well, you move up to the next level, which is the congressional level. You've got the leftists in control there, and you move up to the state level, and they totally control the state party, the state caucuses, and all of that. There's no conservatives or Christians up in them levels. There's neo-conservatives and phonies that give you lip service, but when it comes to the paid positions, you don't find the evangelicals and the conservative, the right-wingers, you don't find them in those positions. Yeah. They've been relegated to the bottom.
There you go. They want our money and our shoe leather, but they don't want us to have any say-so in any matter.
Well, maybe you guys will finally wake up like I did, and I left that party.
Hey.
It's better to be an independent so you can vote for the man where there's...
I think you left a good party. I think Democrats need to take the party back from the gays, and I think the Republicans that really care need to take it back from some of the rich people that are running it in Eau Claire. You got to see some of these people that are involved, that have been there a long time. Like you said, that country club mentality, it's there. But I think good people are rising up all through America. We hear about it. And just because they want to, the press wants to label us a Christian right, just because, what's wrong with Lutherans and Catholics? My whole background, everything was from the Lutheran Church. And I'm proud of it. I learned a lot there. And I'm not going to take the back seat for the Leader Telegram just because I believe in God. No way, boy. I'm here to stay.
Well, that's something that has to be done. Those who call themselves Christians have to take that bushel basket off their lamp and let it shine, and not to take this lying down.
Right. I don't think
because I think some people are being fooled by the misinformation that they're getting about what's going on in the Republican Party.
You know, what's really heartbreaking about the whole thing, guys, is to see what the press is doing to our nation. If they would only tell the truth and give the evangelicals or Christians a fair shot instead of being so biased, and I think they actually are discriminating against Christians that profess to be Christian. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the hidden agenda is behind them people.
I understand that even the minister that is a delegate of the local executive committee, I understand he was even